Good day, everyone. I'm Steven Cesario, and I'll be discussing the Retraction Challenge, the credibility of the Rizal Retraction Challenge, and the Rizal execution.
So let's start the Retraction Challenge. What is a retraction? A public statement made about earlier statement that withdraws, cancels, refutes, or reverses the original statement or ceases and desists from publishing the original statement according to wikipedia.org. Ibig sabihin nito ay lahat ng sinulat ni Rizal laban sa pamahalang Kastila at sa simbahang Katoliko ay kanya nang binabawi. What was the retraction about? The letter, dated December 29, 1896, was said to have been signed by the national hero himself. Rizal retracted because the church would not allow his marriage to Josephine Bracken unless he retracted his Masonic affiliation. So the catch is, kung kinasal si Rizal kay Josephine Bracken, he retract. Kasi hindi siya papayagang ikasal kung hindi siya nag-retract. Again, kung hindi kinasal si Rizal kay Bracken, ay hindi siya totoo nag-retract. So, andito yung sulat niya na nilalaman ng kanyang retraction letter. I declare myself Catholic in this religion in which I was born and educated. I wish to live and die. I retract with all of my heart whatever in my words, writings, publications, and conduct has been contrary to my character as son of the Catholic Church. I believe and I confess whatever she teaches, and I submit to whatever she demands. I abominate Masonry as the enemy which is the Church, and as a society prohibited by the Church. The diocesan prelate may, as a superior ecclesiastical authority, make public this spontaneous manifestation of mine in order to repair the scandal which may acts have caused, and so that God and people may pardon me. Signed by Jose Rizal on Manila, December of 29, 1896. So there are main issues concerning the retraction. There are three. The first one is Rizal retracted his Masonic affiliation. The second one, Rizal wrote and signed the retraction. Number 3, Rizal marriage to Josephine. So the timeline. In 1891, Rizal arrived in Hong Kong to practice his medical profession. In 1892, he founded the La Liga Filipina. Kung hindi ako nagkakamali ay July 3, 1892 na itatag ang La Liga Filipina in Tondo. Kinabukasan ay nag-order si Governor Despuhol on July 4 ng banishment to Dapitan in Zamboanga del Norte. In July 7 naman ay itinatag ni Andres Bonifacio ang katipunan. In August 1896 ay sumiklab ang Cuban Revolution sa Cuba at nag-apply si Rizal as a medical doctor. Pinayagan naman siya, but August 23, sumiklab ang unang sigaw ng Pugadlawin o ang Cry of Pugadlawin. Nangyari na ang pagpuno ng sedula at nang mabalitaan iyon ng mga Kastila ay nadamay o nadawit ang pangalan ni Rizal. Hindi pa man siya nakakababa ng Spain or ng Cuba, ay pinabalik na siya. May pagkakataon sana siyang tumakas sa pagdaong nila sa Singapore to Manila, pero hindi niya iyong ginawa. At pagdating niya sa Manila ay kinulong siya sa Port Santiago. And 1895 naman, Rizal became acquainted with Josephine Bracken. In December 26 naman ay Rizal was accused and tried before a military tribunal for the alleged crimes of rebellion, sedition, and legal association. On December 28 naman ay Governor General affirmed the death sentence and said the execution of Rizal on December 30 at 7 o'clock in the morning. December 29 naman ay death sentence was read to Rizal early in the morning, and December 29, Father Sadera and Father Luis Biza visited Rizal and he asked them whether some of those who had been professors were still there in Ateneo. December 29, Rizal has decided to retract. And December 30 at 6 o'clock in the morning, Josephine Bracken and Rizal was married. On December 30, the execution of Rizal. So, may mga tanungan tayo dito na kailangan natin masagot para malaman natin kung nag-retract nga ba si Rizal o hindi. The first one is, did Rizal retract his Masonic affiliation? Rizal stated in his retraction, I abominate Abominate means itinatakwil Masonry as the enemy of the church and reprobated by the same church. Yan ang laman ng Retraction ni Rizal noong 1996. Noong 1896, yan yung laman ng kanyang letter. Pangalawa namang katanungan ay, did Rizal wrote and signed the retraction? That style is simple as mine, don't bother, Father, to read it all. Dictate what I ought to profess or express, and I shall write, making in any case some remarks. Mapapansin dito na nag-retract nga talaga si Rizal base doon sa kanyang signature. And then, pangatlo naman ay, did Rizal and Josephine Bracken get married? Father Balaguer testified he married Rizal and Josephine on December 30 at 6 o'clock in the morning, 1 hour before execution of Rizal. And after his marriage, Rizal dedicated a Catholic devotion book entitled De la Imitación de Cristo to Josephine Bracken. The dedication read as follows, to my dear and unhappy wife, Josephine. Ayun, so si Father Balaguer ang nagkasal sa kanila, then nagbigay ng regalo si Rizal kay Josephine na book, ay devotion book pala, na entitled De la Imitación de Cristo. Ayun, so dumako naman tayo sa credibility of Rizal Retraction Challenge o gaano nga ba kapanipaniwala o katotoo ang retraction ni Rizal. So, meron tayong dalawang grupo. Una ay ang mga anti-retractionists o mga hindi naniniwala at ang pro-retractionists o mga naniniwala na nag-retract si Rizal. So, una, anti-retractionists. After analyzing 6 major documents of Rizal, Ricardo Pascual concluded that the retraction document said to have been discovered in 1935 was not in Rizal's handwriting. According to anti-retractionists ay hindi nag-retract si Rizal. Ang patotoo dyan ay si Ricardo Pascual kung saan ay he concluded na almost 40 years pa bago lumabas ang nadiskubre ang retraction paper ni Rizal. And na-execute si Rizal noong 1896. At noong 1935 lang lumabas ang retraction paper niya. Kung nag-retract si Rizal ay dapat nilang ingatan ang paper na yon as katibayan na nag-retract talaga si Rizal bago pa man o kaya after ng 1896. At isa pang katanungan ng marami ay kung nag-retract si Rizal ay bakit natin siya pambansang bayani? Kung bayani siya, bakit naging duwag siya sa pag-retract na iyon? Kung bakit niya babawiin ang kanyang mga salita laban sa simbahang Katoliko at sa pamahalang Kastila. Pero para sa akin, nag-retract man siya o hindi, ay matuturing pa rin siyang bayani dahil sa maampag niya, katulad na lang ng Nolemi Tangere at El Filibusterismo. Senator Falma, former president of the University of the Philippines and a prominent Mason, argued that the retraction is not in keeping with Rizal's characters and mature beliefs. He called the retraction story a pious fraud. Others who deny the retraction are Frank Lovac, a Protestant minister, Austin Coates, a British writer, and Ricardo Manafat, the director of the National Archives. Dito na rin papasok yung tanong na kung bakit gawa-gawa lamang ba ang retraction paper ni Rizal dahil the main reason is they wanted to furnish Rizal's reputation as a hero. Of course, as someone who contributed a lot in the Philippine independence and syempre his power through writings. Naisulat nga niya yung Nolemi at El Fili na naglalayon o kaya nagbibigay kamalayan sa tunay na nangyayari sa mga Pilipino sa kamay ng mga Kastila noon. So dumako naman tayo sa pro-retractionists o ang mga naniniwala na nag-retract si Rizal. We have 5 pro-retractionists. Letter A, eyewitness. Eyewitness, unang-una na dyan ay si Father Vicente Balaguer. Pangalawa naman ay si Father Sanchez visited Rizal in Dapitan and persuaded him to retract. And Father Patios exchanged several long letters with Rizal for the same purpose with Father Sanchez. Itong mga pari na to ay ang mga tao nagsasabi nag-retract si Rizal. Pero against ako rito dahil kung gusto niya mag-retract ay ginawa na niya dati and 40 years pa bago lumabas ang retraction paper niya, malay ba natin na manipulated na pala ang paper na yon. Pero yun lang ay ang pananaw ko. And then, sinasabi nila na ang tatlong pare na ito ay ang nagkumbinsi kay Rizal para siya ay mag-retract. Sabi pa nila dito ay hindi daw alam ni Rizal ang pagsulat ng retraction paper kaya sila yung gumabay sa kanya, and then sa pagkakataong iyon ay malay ba natin na ang mga nakakasulat na doon ay nagsilbing o kaya naman ay nauna na, fabricated na bago pa naman nila ituro kay Rizal. And then, the Declaration of Retraction was signed together with Rizal by Senior Fresno, Chief of the Picket, and Senior Moore, Adjutant of the Plaza, at ang second eyewitness naman ay ang former Lieutenant of the Infantry. Letter B, the marriage of Rizal and Josephine. Sabi ko nga kanina, hindi papayagan si Rizal na ikasal unless he retracted. So, sabi dito, the act of retraction is established because while still in dapitan, the condition imposed on Rizal was no retraction, no marriage. At ito yung pinanghawakan ng karamihan na maaari nag-retract si Rizal dahil gusto niya mapakasalan ang kanyang pinakamamahal na nobya na si Josephine Bracken. And then, Father Balangir, the priest who had married them, testified under oath that at 6 o'clock in the morning of December 30, Josephine Bracken and one of Rizal's sisters arrived crying bitterly. With the knowledge of the warden of the fort, and I proceeded to the marriage of Rizal and Josephine. And letter C, the Catholic devotion books. After Rizal he had retracted, he read a blue pamphlet entitled Aceptación de la Muerte, containing the acts of faith, hope, and charity. After this, he went to confession and received Holy Communion. Then, dito din natin masabi na kailangan mag-retract ni Rizal para mamatay siyang bilang Katoliko. At may mga binigay sa kanya tulad ng pamphlet, ng devotion books, at kung ano-ano pa na nagpapatunay lamang na siya ay anak ng simbang Katoliko. Pero sa totoo lang, si Rizal naman talaga ay may pangmamahal sa Catholic religion. Nagkataon lang nagalit siya sa mga pare, hindi sa simbahang Katoliko. Way back ay nagkaroon ng alitan sina Antonio Luna at Rizal dahil sa isang babae na si Nelly. Si Nelly ay taga Netherlands at later on ay naayos din nila iyon dahil inalok ni Rizal si Nelly na magpakasal pero may condition si Nelly. Yun ay ang mag-convert si Rizal from Catholic religion to Protestant. Bagay na hindi niya ginawa dahil mahal niya ang pagiging Katoliko. Letter D, the priest in crucifix. Rizal was accompanied by 2 Catholic priests to his execution ground. It is a common and usual practice for Catholics to kiss the crucifix before they die. Rizal did so and kissed the crucifix offered to him by the 2 Catholic priests before he was shot. May kwento pa dito na hinahanap daw ni Rizal yung amulet na may ukit ng mukha ni Jesus Christ, at nagkataon na pagdalaw ng dalawang pare na yon ay nasa kanila o nasa bulsa ng isang pare yung amulet na yon. Ibig sabihin ay matatag pa rin o kaya naman malakas pa rin ang paniniwala ni Rizal sa simbahang Katoliko. And the letter E, Father Manuel A. Garcia, the best evidence. In Father Manuel A. Garcia, an Archdiocese archivist way back in 1935, account of events, he came across a bundle of document entitled Masoneria. In this bundle, he came across the document of retraction which had been lost long. Archbishop O'Doherty, despite the approval of Chidoro Calao, the director of the National Library, was not satisfied with the mere document itself, so he requested Professor H. Otlet Beyer, a professor of anthropology in the University of the Philippines, to study and examine the Rizal retraction document. And he examined Rizal's supposed handwriting in the document of retraction and compared it with 150 letters and documents that were written in Rizal's handwriting. So ito na yung conclusion nila doon. There is not the slightest doubt that every word on the document of the retraction was written by Jose Rizal except for the signatures of the other witness. The whole document was found to be written by Rizal in his normal handwriting. Sa context na ito ay sinasabing ito na ang pagkakatagpo ng retraction ni Rizal dahil madaling gayahin ang handwriting at signature ni Rizal ay maaring may naganap na pagmamanipula pero ito ay kanilang tinututulan. Then, Dr. Jose I. Del Rosario also compared this piece of document with numerous letters of Dr. Rizal, Dr. Jose del Rosario did not find anything in Rizal's retraction which does not proclaim that the retraction is in fact. He points out that the most salient individual characteristic points of identify between the handwriting of the retraction and the undisputed handwriting of Rizal. Napagtanto nila na wala namang pagkakaiba din sa mga naisulat na akda ni Rizal before at sa kanyang retraction paper. As a conclusion, if ever man na totoo ang retraction, ayon sa napanood kong professor, ay maaaring gustong bigyan ni Rizal ang sarili niya ng pagkakataong magawa ang gusto niya dahil iba ang naging kabataan niya dati. Tao lang din si Rizal at kailangan niyang gawin anuman ang makakapagpasaya sa kanya kaya ginawa niya ang retraction upang mamatay bilang Katoliko, mamatay bilang asawa ni Justin Bracken at ang bawiin ang Masonic affiliation niya. Then, the important points, it should also be pointed out that in the first place, Rizal did not fight the Catholic religion. He fought those who abused the religion. Ayon, hindi against si Rizal sa Catholic religion, against lang siya sa mga namumuno dito na mga pare. Ayun yung tatandaan natin na walang masamang hangarin si Rizal sa relihiyong Katoliko, kundi bagkus doon sa mga namumuno dito. And then, Rizal was not against the Catholic religion but was against the manner the Catholic religion was practiced by the friars in the Philippines during his time. Ayun, ito yung patotoo doon. And then, lumako na tayo sa Rizal execution. In 1886, Rizal published in Berlin a Tagalog novel in the Spanish language with the title of No Limitang Here, at ito din ay inilithala sa Spanish language. And then, Spaniards were the most infamous Jesuits, defiles the Catholic religion and attempts to prove that the Philippine nation can never be civilized as long as it is ruled by those whom he calls decadent and contemptible Castilians. It goes without saying that after the authorities received knowledge of it, the distribution of his work in the island was forthwith prohibited. Ayon, pagkatapos ng kanyang execution ay malinaw na pinagbabawal ng basahin o kaya naman i-publish muli ang mga akdang nagawa niya dahil magpapatunay lamang ito na kahit patay na siya ay maaari pa ring mabuhay ang pagkakamalayan o ang kamalayan ng mga Pilipino. The sequel of Rizal No Limitang Here came off the press by the middle of September 1891, entitled El Filibusterismo. In veneration of the three friars, he dedicated the book of them. Kilala niyo ba ang mga Gunborza, ang si Padre Gomez, Borregos at Zamora? Inaalay niya ang El Filibusterismo dahil isa itong political novel kung saan ay against pa rin ito sa kamalayan o kaya naman sa pamamahala ng mga Espanyol noon. However, Rizal succeeded in eluding the government order and in distributing the book throughout the archipelago with a foreseeable deleterious effects. So, dito na tayo sa Rizal's Last Hours. Babasahin ko na lang to dahil madali na naman siyang intindihin. On December 29, 1896 at 6 to 7 a.m., Captain Rafael Dominguez reads before Rizal his death sentence. Ayun, kaya naman napapanood natin sa mga pelikula o kaya naman sa totoong buhay ay ganun pa rin ang proper way na execution. Babasahin muna nila ang death sentence na ipinata sa kanya bago siya patayin o kaya naman idaan sa paglilitis na kamatayan. 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock a.m., Rizal is transferred to his death cell in Port Santiago. Father Saderna talks briefly with Rizal, and then Father Visa presents a statue of the Sacred Heart of Jesus and Medal of Mary, and Rizal rejects the letter, saying, "I'm a little of Marian, Father." And then Rizal persisted in his errors contrary to the Catholic faith. However, at the last hour, Rizal abjured in writing these religious errors. In other words, Rizal, a Mason, was said to have recanted his statements against the church, and to have returned to the Catholic faith. The controversy over Rizal's retraction has not been settled. 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock a.m. Rizal shares his milk and coffee with Father Rizal. Lieutenant Andrade and Chief of Artillery come to visit Rizal, who thanks each of them. Rizal scribbles a note inviting his family to visit him. 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock a.m. Senior Matayeks, defying stringent regulation, enters death cell and interviews Rizal in the presence of Father Rizal. Later, Governor Lorengo drops in to join the conversation. 10 o'clock a.m. to 11 o'clock a.m., Father Farah persuades Rizal to put down his rancors in order to marry Josephine canonically. A heated discussion of religion occurs between them on hearing Father Rizal. 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock noon, Rizal talks on various topics in a long conversation with Father Villaclara, who will later conclude with Father Balangir, who is not allowed to enter the death cell. That Rizal is either to Protestant or rationalist, who speaks in a very cold and calculated manner, with a mixture of strange piety. No debate or discussion on religion is recorded to have taken place between the fathers mentioned and Rizal. 12 to 1 p.m. Rizal reads Bible and Imitation of Christ by Kempis, then meditates. Father Balangir reports to the Archbishop that only a little hope remains that Rizal is going to retract, for Rizal was heard saying that he is going in appear tranquilly before God. 2 to 3 p.m. Rizal confessed with Father March and Father Villaclara. 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. Rizal reads verses which he had underlined in Igor's German Reader, a book which he is going to hand over to his sisters to be sent to Dr. Blumentritt through Father Stowe. He writes several letters with his last dedications, then he rests for a short. 4 o'clock to 5:30 p.m. Captain Dominguez is moved with companion at the sight of Rizal kneeling before his mother and asking pardon. Father Rizal hears Rizal's farewell to his sister and his address to those present, eulogizing the cleverness of his nephew. The other sisters come in one by one after the other, and to each Rizal gives promises to give a book, an alcohol burner, a pair of shoes, something to remember. 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. The Dean of the Cathedral, admitted on account of his dignity, comes to exchange views with Rizal. Father Rizal hears an order given to certain gentlemen and 2 friars to leave the chapel at once. Father Balangir leaves Port Santiago. 6 o'clock to 7 p.m. Father Rizal leaves Port Santiago and sees Josephine Bracken. Rizal calls for Josephine and then they speak to each for the last time. 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. Father Faura returns to console Rizal and persuades him once more to trust him and the other professors at the Ateneo. Rizal is emotion-filled with mind and, after remaining some moments in silence, confesses to Father Faura. 10 o'clock to 11 p.m. Rizal manifests a strange reaction as guards for paper and pen. From rough drafts and copies of his poem recovered in his shoes, the Spaniards poem to note that Rizal is writing a poem. 11 o'clock to 12 midnight. Rizal takes time to hide his poem inside the alcohol burner. It has to be done during night rather than during daytime because he is watched very carefully. He then writes his last letter to Brother Pasiano. 12 o'clock to 4 a.m. Rizal sleeps restfully because his confidence in the goodness of God and the justness of his cause given him astounding serenity and unusual calmness. December 30, 1896, 4 o'clock to 5 a.m. Rizal picks up Imitation of Christ, reads, meditates, and then writes in Campbell's book of dictation to his wife Josephine, and by this very act in itself, he gives to her their only certificate of marriage. 5 o'clock to 6:15 a.m., writes a letter to his parents, reads Bible and meditates. Josephine is prohibited by Spanish officers from seeing Rizal. Ito na yung time na natapos silang ikinasal. 6:15 to 7 o'clock a.m., Rizal walks to the place of execution between Father March and Father Villaclara, with whom he converses. Keeps looking around as if seeking or expecting to see someone. The Spanish Army Surgeon General requested to take his pulse. It was normal. Dr. Felipe Ruiz Castillo, who took Rizal vital signs and pulse rate before the execution, was amazed to find that the national hero was calm and unafraid. Siguro dahil tanggap na niya sa sarili niya na yun na yung huling araw ng kanyang buhay ay nanatili na lang siyang kalmado at ipinaubaya na lang sa Diyos ang lahat. A squad of Filipino soldiers of the Spanish Army were the executioner, but a backup force of regular Spanish Army troops stood ready to shoot the executioners should they fail to obey order. Ibig sabihin nito ay ang mga bumaril kay Rizal ay ang mga Pilipino din. Sakaling hindi man nila gawin ang pagbaril sa kanya ay sila din ang papatayin dahil sa likod nila o sa likuran nila ay nakabantay naman ang mga Spanish soldier. Para sakaling hindi nila gawin yon ay sila din ang kanilang papatayin. A squad of Filipino soldiers of the Spanish Army were the executioner, but a backup force of the regular Spanish Army troops stood ready to shoot the executioners should they fail to obey order. Holding a rosary in his right hand, Rizal was tied at the elbows as his groups walked behind 4 advance guards armed with bayonets. 7 o'clock to 7:03 a.m. Sounds of guns. Rizal vacillates, turns halfway around, falls down and backwards and lies on the ground facing the sun. His last word, said in a loud voice, "It is finished," or consummatum, is silence, shouts of vivas for Spain. The burial. He was secretly buried in Paco Cemetery in Manila with no identification on his grave. His sister Narcisa toured all possible grave sites and found freshly turned earth at the cemetery with guards posted at the gate, assuming that this could be the most likely spot, there never having any ground burials. She made a gift to the caretaker to mark the site, RPJ, Rizal initials in reserve. Sinasabi rito na sekretong ibinuro si Rizal ng kanyang kapatid na si Narcisa sa Paco Cemetery at may initial na RPJ ang kanyang lapida upang hindi makilala ito. Exhumation of his remains in August 1898 under American rule revealed he had been uncoffined, his burial not on sanctified ground, granted the confessed, faithful, and whatever was in his shoes had disintegrated. And now he is buried in Rizal Monument in Manila. Exhumation of his remains in August 1898 under American rule revealed he had been uncoffined, his burial not on sanctified ground, granted the confessed. August 1898 ay napag-alaman ang kanyang libingan at ngayon ay nilipat na ito sa Manila kung saan ay pinangalanan itong Rizal Monument. At yon ay ang wakas.